Yeah, Dr. Kapoor, just been feeling really down recently. I think it's made worse by the fact that I'm not getting anywhere with this whole dating thing. I mean, I've tried Tinder, obviously, tried Dill Mill, that wasn't any better, even tried Grindr and just got nowhere. I mean, all I want is a good-looking girl who earns a lot of money, does all the cooking and cleaning, and, you know, sometimes has time for my whining about how hard my life is. But it's not too much to ask, is it?
Well, Varun, have you ever thought the problem could be with you?
Good one, Doc.
If you ever wondered what it's like to be a psychiatrist, this video is for you.
Welcome back to Scanning the Mind, guys. Today we've got another one of our medical journey episodes, and I've managed to get hold of an elite level psychiatrist. I've got with me a very special guest, Dr. Sanchit Kapoor.
Thank you.
Welcome to the channel.
Thank you.
I've seen you somewhere before.
It's nice to be on it. It's very professional.
Well, what can I say,
Never
mate?
seen something with such high production value.
Editing is, editing is a skill.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So we're here to talk to you about your chosen career, which is psychiatry.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're a first year psychiatry trainee?
Yes, I've started CT1.
Started CT1, okay. And how long?
I've done about 2 years of psychiatry locum / F2.
You start at the beginning,
Yeah.
which is medical school. Now I know you went to this polytechnic called
Called
Imperial, but that's where you went, right?
Yes, I went to Imperial. One of the big reasons I went there is my cousin went there, and he liked it. Because when you're picking universities, I think for subjects outside of medicine, you pick universities on how good they are and how good the course is itself. But for medicine, they're all kind of the same.
I suppose that's why I went to Imperial. It doesn't matter how good it is. Like, you just go there. It's fine.
You just kind of pick the city you want to be in,
Fine.
and then you apply. But yeah, so for me, it was I just wanted to get into a medical school,
Fine.
and I wanted to be in London because it just seemed like a nice place to be.
Yeah.
And then my cousin went to Imperial and he really enjoyed it there, so I thought, why not? So I actually applied to Imperial and King's, my 2 London universities.
Oh, really? Okay. Did you
Yeah.
get to King's?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Rejected it?
Yeah, turned it down.
When did you graduate?
I graduated in 2017, so Imperial you have to do a BSc.
Okay.
So I was actually a 6-year course, so you do 2 years of mainly lectures,
Okay.
a year in hospital, then you intercalate for a year, which can be in loads of different things. I did mine in management,
Oh.
so it was completely different. It was kind of healthcare related, but not science-based in any way.
Okay.
And then you do your 5th and 6th year, which are your specialty years.
Fine. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So you graduated in
17.
2017, okay. And then where did you go from there?
So from there, I moved up to Leeds. So I applied to Yorkshire and Humber. My 2 hospitals during my foundation years were Huddersfield and Bradford.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you find foundation training then?
At the start, it was quite difficult because obviously I moved up from London, so there were maybe 2 or 3 of us that came
Okay.
to Yorkshire, and everyone in my hospital had either gone to Sheffield Uni or Leeds Uni,
man.
so everyone knew each other.
Oh.
So initially it was a bit daunting, kind of having to make friends
Yeah.
again, which you haven't done for 6 years.
And everyone's already got a friendship group, I'm
Yeah,
guessing. Yeah,
yeah.
okay, fine.
And-
It's kind of like that with... Well, I was very lucky because I came from Newcastle to Manchester, didn't know anyone, and everyone in the hospital seemed to already know each other.
Yeah.
But everyone was really social.
Yeah.
So managed to make friends quite easily.
Yeah.
But I can imagine if you're with a group of people who aren't that social, and some people are more cliquey than others,
Yeah.
if you're with a group like that, it can be quite difficult. Especially because you're not a student, you go on calls,
Exactly.
you miss one social and people forget about you.
Yeah, exactly. Huddersfield was quite a small hospital.
Okay.
So there were maybe 20 F1s.
Okay.
And obviously you have teaching every week,
So you see them.
etc, etc. It's not COVID, so you actually like meet up at lunchtime. You work with other F1s on the
Thank God
wards.
that's over now.
Yeah. But yeah, you meet up at lunchtime,
Yeah.
you go for lunch with them, you'll meet up during teaching, you'll have your on-calls with them.
Right.
So actually, the 20 people, the 20 F1s that were there, became quite close, so all of us were quite close.
Okay, that's good.
And then obviously nights out, going out to eat, that kind of stuff.
Fine.
There were loads of social events, especially towards the start of F1.
Where did you guys used to go out? Leeds or?
Yeah, Leeds.
Fine. I was gonna say I can't imagine Huddersfield being
No.
banging night out.
Yeah,
No. Okay. Fine.
It was even the nurses from around Huddersfield used to come out in Leeds.
Oh, that's good.
There's nothing in Huddersfield, I don't think. Sorry for anyone who's from Huddersfield. But yeah, so it was actually quite good socially, so that
Okay.
made it so much easier. I can't imagine if I'd been in a much bigger hospital or been in a place where people weren't as social, because then I think I would have found it quite lonely.
Okay.
But everyone who I worked with were really social. I made some friends quite easily and quite quickly, luckily, which made just the job easier as well.
Did you do psychiatry during your foundation training at all?
I did it during my F2 year.
Okay, so before you did your psychiatry job, had you thought that this is something maybe I want to do?
So throughout uni, I had two things that I wanted to do. Well, kind of coming into uni, I thought GP and sports medicine. Then I realised I hated the medicine part of sports medicine. I just wanted to work for Arsenal Football Club. So then I sacked that idea off pretty quickly, and I thought, I like GP. I just liked the working environment. The idea of being a GP seemed quite appealing to me, but also the kind of managerial aspect of it. You could mix in kind of running a business and doing that stuff alongside your medical job. So that was really appealing to me until I did my psychiatry placement at uni. And it was just really interesting. It was nothing more than that. I just thought, this is pretty cool. The whole psychosis thing, where I still can't get my head around psychosis. Like, it's just incredible. That's the thing.
Not for the person who's psychotic.
No, obviously not. But like, someone can believe something so wholeheartedly and believe it as much as you believe you're sat here right now, but it could be just complete.
I suppose some people think Arsenal Football Club's a decent club, so I know what you mean.
So yeah, I did my F2 placement in it, and that's when it really became something that I started thinking about a bit more. But at that point I was still thinking GP or psychiatry. Not really sure.
So how did you decide then?
So I chose to do an F3 and I locumed in psychiatry because I thought best way to find out if I want to do psychiatry is locum in psychiatry. If I like it, great. If I don't, then fine. Still applied for GP and psychiatry, mainly because it was just the MSRA.
Fine, makes sense.
So it makes it quite simple to... the application forms, there's nothing really to it. You just fill your details in, you tick that you can drive, and then that's your application form done. You then do the MSRA, which is obviously the same for both. So I'm already revising for it. You might as well
apply it, exactly. And GP, you get in, if you get above a certain mark, you automatically get a job.
Same for psychiatry.
Oh, really? Yeah. You don't need to interview if you get above a certain mark?
I was off the mark by one.
Unlucky, mate.
Annoying,
just not good enough.
One answer if I changed, or just no interview. But interview-wise, it's quite similar to the radiology interview. So the psychiatry one, you have a portfolio station where you just talk through your portfolio. So any publications, your research, your audits, any teaching you've done, all the kind of stuff that you've gathered together in your portfolio. And the other one is a simulated patient.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So mine was, I think it was a 17 or 18-year-old girl who was being bullied and had come in after taking an overdose, and you just had to do a consultation with an actor while the panel watched.
Just seems a bit odd that they expect you to know what to do if you're not even in training.
I think a lot of the stuff they're looking for is just risk assessment.
Okay, fine.
So they're not expecting you to take some elaborate history and fix them and give any management plans. They just want to see that you're safe. So you ask the right questions. You make sure that you're happy that they're safe before you tell them what you're going to do and that kind of stuff. So they're not looking for
too much.
Yeah.
So you've got your portfolio, you've got your interview, and what's the other third?
MSRA.
Fine, MSRA, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming similar to radiology, you know your MSRA mark before you go in?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, similar to radiology, it sounds like if you do well on the MSRA and you've made an effort with your portfolio.
Well, so portfolio, I don't know how it works for you guys. Did you get points before you went in?
No, so they give you this self-assessment card on the day. And you have to tick it off and score yourself. And then you go to a station where the interviewers basically take it off you. And just check you've actually done everything.
Oh, okay. So So this is for the psychiatry portfolio station. It's a bit weird. They don't do any of that. If you don't talk about something, you don't get marks for it. So you go in with your portfolio, you give it to them, and then you just talk. And if you talk about stuff, they can give you marks for it. If you don't mention something, you don't get any marks.
But do you know the criteria?
I couldn't say before going in, I've got this many marks. I knew that my portfolio was pretty decent, but if I forgot to mention something, I wouldn't get those marks. So if I forgot to mention that I'd done an audit, I'm not getting those marks for audits.
Already I'm not liking psychiatry.
So I don't know why they don't do a self-assessment type form.
Even surgery did self-assessments.
Yeah, a lot of them do. But so that was the nerve-wracking bit of the portfolio station, because you wanted to say everything. You wanted to make sure they saw everything that you'd done. And obviously you didn't want it to just be kind of like, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. You have to explain what you learn and all that kind of stuff. So that was actually quite a hard station.
Yeah, but
But yeah, it's not the same as kind of you've got this many marks before going in. It is kind of on the day how well you perform.
So Sanchit, you're now a psych trainee. What do you like best about psychiatry?
It's a very good question, Varun. I think the biggest thing I like about it is I find it fascinating. I find psychosis just fascinating. The way
you love psychosis. The number of times you said to me you love psychosis.
Yeah.
It is quite interesting.
It's so interesting. So I think that's my biggest thing. Is obviously it's not just psychosis. There's loads of other things you have to deal with in psychiatry, but I find psychiatry as a subject fascinating, and the brain itself quite interesting as well. So I think that's probably the main thing that's drawn me to psychiatry. Then obviously there are things about the job itself.
Yeah.
So it's really flexible. You do kind of, like GP, you can organise your working hours to suit you. So say you want to drop kids off, or you want to pick them up, or you need a certain time off.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I didn't realise that. Okay.
Because in psychiatry you have a ward round maybe once or twice a week. Okay. So as the consultant, you could, once you've worked somewhere for a certain period of time, change which day that's on potentially, or start half an hour later. So a lot of ward rounds don't start till 9:30. Yeah, so you can say drop off your kids at work.
That's nice. Okay.
Whatever the reasoning is for starting at 9:30 or whatever you want us to do. So it's quite flexible in that sense. I find the work-life balance is quite good as well.
That's what I've always thought psychiatry is, like really good work-life balance. Yeah.
And on-calls generally aren't as bad as medical on-calls. So if you have a busy psychiatric on-call, that's probably normal-ish medical on-call.
Yeah. In fact, I'm just remembering now, I did know somebody else who did a psych job, vaguely. I remember them saying on nights they were just sleeping.
Yeah. So it depends what kind of trust you work in.
Okay.
Because if you cover A&E, 136 suite, and the wards,
what's the 136 suite?
So that's where the police can bring people to a place of safety.
Oh, so somebody's behaving dangerously or
on the street somewhere.
Okay.
They think this could be a psychiatric problem. They can bring them to the 136 suite. So if you're covering A&E as well, and the 136 suite, and you're covering all the wards, and you're the only person, or there's only two of you doing that, then it can be quite busy.
Okay.
My F2 year, the 136 suite didn't really get used that much. I didn't have to cover A&E because the liaison team covered that. So it was just the wards really, and therefore it was really chill. So I slept on most night shifts.
Remembering back to some of my night shifts on surgery, I remember one of them, A&E was back to people having like heart attacks on the corridor. You know, you see on the news every now and then, it was like one of them. And I remember my consultant and my reg were in theatre for 3 laparotomies, which are like big operations back to back. So I was by myself.
Yeah.
And then had to go down to like resus, which is where people are the most unwell in A&E.
Yeah, it's the most acute bit, isn't it?
Well, patient had a cardiac arrest in the CT scanner.
It's not fun.
No, it wasn't. Meanwhile, you're sleeping.
Yeah.
There must be something you don't like. What don't you like about your job and psychiatry in general?
I think one of the biggest things with psychiatry is it can be quite emotionally draining. You need to be able to stay quite calm, not take things personally when people say certain things, but also not get too emotionally involved, if that makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
But you also need to be able to show that empathy to allow patients to discuss quite deep personal things about themselves. They might not have told anyone in their lives. You have to make them feel secure enough to tell you that, but also not get so emotionally invested that you start getting affected by your work. So I think that part of psychiatry is quite difficult to get used to.
From what you're saying, psychiatry sounds like it would really suit some people.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
But for some reason, there's this massive shortage of psychiatrists. And like I said, I've not met anyone who's wanted to do psychiatry.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
It's a good question, really. I think because it's so different to medicine, I don't think many people really look into it. I think there are a lot of people that will probably become good psychiatrists, but don't have much exposure to psychiatry. And if they do, they think it's too separated from medicine and would rather do something more medical.
Okay. So for me, the way myself and a lot of people I know would consider doing a specialty is seeing somebody they view as a role model. So, you know, you don't really know, unless you're one of these people who definitely knows what they want to do.
Yeah. If
you kind of, you know, going through the specialties, if you meet a consultant or registrar or somebody senior to you that you think, I can see myself being like them, I want to be like them, you kind of think about going into it.
Yeah. You do tend to go into careers where you've seen someone that you want to emulate.
Yeah.
And I think with psychiatry, because the hospitals are separate, you don't have much interaction with psychiatrists.
Yeah.
You won't really ever see a reg, you won't really ever see a consultant. You might see them once or twice a year when they come onto your ward to see a patient. and if that. Whereas for medical consultants, you're seeing one every day, essentially, in surgery every single day.
Yeah.
So I think maybe people aren't exposed to registrars and consultants in psychiatry because it's a separate hospital completely.
Yeah. So Sanchit, just tell me a bit about psychiatry training. How long is it? What involves?
Yeah. So you have your core training and you have your specialty training. So your core training is what I'm doing now, and that's 3 years. It's CT1, CT2, and CT3. Generally, over those 3 years, you just have 6-month placements in different psychiatric specialties. In those years, you do 3 exams: so MRC Psych Part A, Part B, and your CASC, which is the practical exam. Once you pass all of those, you finish your core training, you can then apply for specialty training. And there's different specialties you can do. So you can do your general adult, old age, forensic, learning disabilities, child and adolescent.
Quite a lot, actually.
There's loads of different specialties.
I didn't realise that. Okay.
Yeah. But you can also dual train. So if you just did general adult, that would be 3 years of specialty training, taking the whole thing to 6 years. If you did general adult plus another specialty, that can go up to 4 or 5 years, depending on the specialty.
Oh, right. So which is the longest one?
I think if you did something like child and adolescent plus forensic, that's, I think, 5 or 6 years. I'm not entirely sure.
Long then?
Yeah.
That's longer than I think some types of surgeries.
Yeah. So that'd be 8 to 9 years altogether.
Yeah.
But then you're specialised in 2 psychiatric specialties. And I think it's quite rare for people to do something like CAMS and forensic. There probably won't be that many training spots for that at all.
It's quite long, actually. I didn't realise psychiatry was that long. I thought it was something similar to radiology, which is 5 or 6 years. But yeah, I didn't realise that long. Fair play.
Well, it can be 6 years. If you just did general adult psychiatry, then it'd be 3 years core training, 3 years specialty training, and then you're a consultant.
Fair. And finally, Sanchit, if any of our viewers out there are thinking about doing psychiatry, what advice would you give to them?
The main bit of advice I'd give for anyone who has a little bit of interest in psychiatry is just get as much experience as possible. So that can be, if you're still in uni, you'll have a placement in psychiatry at some point. You can also become part of psychiatric society at university. I'm pretty sure all unis have one nowadays. Just get as much experience as you can in psychiatry, because that's the only way of knowing if you're gonna, 1, like it, and 2, see it as a career that you can do for 40 years. So I just get involved as much as you can. And same applies for F1 and F2 doctors. There are psychiatric education training days that happen. You might have a job in psychiatry, so just kind of put your all into that to see if you will like it. And like I said, just ask questions as well. So if you do know any people that are psychiatrists, if there are any consultants that you know of, just ask them questions and just get to know more about it.
I think that's the biggest piece of advice I can give for any specialty,
is
that if you're a medical student and you're on a certain specialty that you think you may want to do, be proactive and show interest. So I remember when I was a medical student, I was with one of the psychiatric consultants, and he was like, "Oh, do you think you might want to do psychiatry?" I mean, I was never going to do psychiatry. I was very honest with him. I said, "No, man, I'm not going to do psychiatry." And he was pleasant to me afterwards, but he's not then going to go out of his way to help me or teach me extra things.
Exactly.
Whereas I think one of the other girls I was with, she wanted to do psych, and she told him that. I think they now work together.
Oh, right.
That's not to say that they're not going to be able to help you get a job. But arranging taster weeks, which look good in your CV, guiding you through the application process. All that kind of thing becomes easier. So just be proactive. I think that's the biggest piece of advice to give, really. And I suppose if you're a bit further on in your medical journey and you're F1, F2, and you don't have a psych job, would you say they're okay to drop their local consultants an email? Yeah,
definitely. I think arranging taster weeks is something that you can do for any specialty. And I imagine every consultant that I've come across in psychiatry would be more than happy to accommodate an F1 or an F2 or even higher to come and spend a week just kind of shadowing, finding out how things work and getting to know psychiatry a bit more. So definitely, if you're thinking about doing psychiatry, but you've not had that much experience in it, and you maybe don't have a job in it during F1 and F2 year, then just try and arrange a taster week with your local psychiatric hospital and a consultant from there. If you've got any questions for me, just leave your question in the comment box below, and I'll get around to replying to all of you. Or you can send us an email as well if there's anything you want to know in particular.
As always, if there's any specialty in particular that you want to know about, comment in the box down below. The specialty with the most likes, or in fact any comments, we'll try and do a video on. I think that's everything really, isn't it? Right, see you guys next time.
See you later.